such as psychedelic therapy being used, who's not opposed to that kind of thing and won't tell somebody, oh, yeah, you were crazy for doing that. That's, why would you ever do that? So somebody who's open to that as being a good thing and who's trained in addiction counseling, I think should also be working with people. And on top of that, since we're talking about an ideal situation, let's have somebody work with the families and the people and the friends, the close friends of the person who is treated. Because it's very important for someone coming out of an addiction to have the other people in their lives to really have them on board with the changes that are going to take place if you're going to stop using opioids. So I think that it's important to have the family and close friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, close friends, also be involved in some way in the ongoing support for the person who's been treated.
Sometimes you got to remove them out of the equation too. No. Yes.
Yeah. I mean that can be an important thing. Having that separation from the family for some point can be a good thing as well. But yeah, also families can be. People can talk to families apart from the person who's getting the treatment as well, and say, look, here's what this person is doing, and here's what we're wanting to have happen, and we want to work with you to so that you can help support this person in their recovery. And there's one more thing, and that is that the treatment setting. I think there's probably a lot of work that can be done to enhance the treatment setting so that the therapy is as effective as possible. And sometimes in some settings it's more kind of clinical, or you might be treatments are done in a hotel room or in somebody's house. And the early treatments were done in apartment buildings or in hotel rooms or that kind of setting, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but the environment should be made very comfortable and supporting, and we know that set and setting are very important in psychedelics, and so we should definitely be using our knowledge of the importance of set and setting to create the best environment for someone, and also to make sure that they're in a good headspace for going into that experience.
Yeah, set and setting is huge, and I've had 10 ayahuasca ceremonies, and I've done the traditional Peru, and I've also done some here in Colorado with Colombian shamans, and then I've also done very, very small, intimate ceremonies in someone's living room with a gringo shaman, and that but the one thing that I've learned from all of those experiences and is to not have any expectations, because typically in my experiences when I have had expectations, I've been let down because it doesn't it's not what you heard on this podcast or saw in this documentary, because it's so uniquely different for everyone. But with the set and setting, the larger groups, to me, I find them to be a big distraction. So I like a very small, intimate group, either with people that I know or with people that have experience in working with the medicine, because I find also, too, with the people that are inexperienced oftentimes can be a little bit over the top with handling their trip or their emotions.
Yeah, and I think that you raised some interesting points there, and one of them is that the ideal therapeutic setting may be different for different people, and also it hasn't really been explored all that much, as far as I know, with ibogaine, because the standard model is you go down to the treatment site, you might be with 2 or 3 other people who are being treated at the same time, and you might be left in a room by yourself with somebody checking on you periodically. The question of, is it a good idea to have somebody sitting with you? And is it a good idea to talk about what the experience is, or should you just be, having some eye shades on and with your eyes closed and and lying down and maybe have some music playing. We just don't know. We don't know what works best with ibogaine treatment. So that's something that needs to be explored.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you bring that up, because when I did my 2 iboga ceremonies, it was done in a carport underneath a house in Costa Rica, and we were kind of on mattresses, and the shaman was going around and asking people questions and stuff like that, and it was my first psychedelic experience ever, and I just felt being around so many people, hearing their feedback from their trip was just too much. I would have liked to be in my room by myself, maybe not outside around so many other people, because I was getting so much information in, and having the shaman try to talk to me about information that I wasn't even comfortable talking to myself about just wasn't a good place for me to be in for that first trip.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I wonder if it would be good to have just one person, or maybe two. Are you aware of the MDMA therapy that MAPS is doing for PTSD?
Yeah.
Yes, they've got 2 people sitting, a male and female team, and they're mostly just there to support the person, not trying to elicit anything, and they're there if the person wants to talk, but they're not trying to guide them in any way. They're sitting with them. And so I wonder if it would be good to have somebody there during the ibogaine treatment. It seems to me that it's best to have one person who's being treated. I don't think it's probably a good idea to have 2 people being treated at the same time, in the same room, for the reasons you just mentioned. But maybe having somebody who has experienced that sort of thing, who was experienced with ibogaine or iboga, and who can be there for support, or if you want to talk with someone, or if you need guidance, if you need help getting to the bathroom or something like that, just to know that there's somebody there for you. I suspect that would be a good thing, but having not experienced ibogaine that at a high dose myself, I think I'm just kind of poking around in the dark there.
Yeah, it's all interesting stuff, and I love that these topics, the psychedelics and the benefits. Growing up for us, it was always it was taboo because it was always considered or looked at as like a party thing, and now with so much information and the books that are coming out and stuff like that, that there are so many different therapeutic benefits to what's going on. I think it's a great thing, and just trying to get as much information out to people so we can kind of reduce the stigmatism and let people know that there are therapeutic benefits, and if a guy like Michael Pollan is writing a book, or hip people to what's going on with MAPS and that sort of stuff, the more information we can get out there, the better. So we're really stoked with what you guys got going on and everything that you've done. Before I shift gears here a little bit, is there anything else about ibogaine that the people should know?
Wow. There's a lot, but I think if I had a couple of minutes, what I would say is that it's important to know, first of all, that there are risks. We haven't talked about it yet in this interview, but there are risks with ibogaine, and it's known that people have died within hours of treatment, and or during treatment at times, and it's not clear why. So there's a really good study done by my friend and colleague Ken Alper, looked at the deaths that were known to have happened shortly after treatment, and what he determined was that about half of those cases were people who had used opioids right after their treatment or during the experience with the ibogaine. That's a very dangerous thing to do. About half of those people, and there was some overlap, about half of people had some kind of pre-existing heart condition either that they've known about or they hadn't known about. And that's now understood to be a very risky thing to do, too. So if you have a heart arrhythmia or certain other kinds of heart conditions, it's very dangerous, which is why people should get an EKG before they go in, and why there should be some monitoring during the treatment. So that's the most important thing. The other one is that the other most important thing that I think we haven't discussed yet is that if you have a friend, or if you're looking for ibogaine treatment, or your son or your daughter is, you want to get them into ibogaine treatment, it's very hard to know where to go. People will find these places online, and clinics will make claims about what their treatment does, and they'll make sometimes false claims about what research has been done, and sometimes they'll make false claims about what their treatment setup is. So the thing to make sure of is, and I would always talk with the person who runs it. Don't ever just go down to a treatment site without having talked to the person who runs it, and make sure that they do have that they're either they are medically trained, or they have medically trained people on hand. And it's still very hard to tell. It's really the Wild West out there still with ibogaine treatment. So people can just say, "Hey, I'm going to provide some ibogaine. I'll be a treatment provider," and there are no credentials. There are no required trainings, and so search around for a good one. And I don't have any real good advice for finding a good treatment provider, except that look around and talk with people who've had treatments there if you can.
I appreciate you talking on that topic of finding a good treatment provider, because I know I had heard Aubrey Marcus on Joe Rogan's podcast talk about the Iboga House, and I kind of did a little Google search and kind of jumped right in, and then on the back end of things found out that it wasn't necessarily the best place to go, and there might be some black magic and whatnot involved. So I appreciate you just letting everyone know about that, because that kind of took me down a wormhole for a couple years. So I appreciate you just letting know people that do the research and know what they're getting into.
Yeah, and that's underscores again, this ibogaine treatment should be made legal and available for people in safe therapeutic settings. When if it's illegal and people have, in the U.S. people do it underground, and there have been occasional deaths for people who, they were in a hotel room, they might have self-administered. That's never a good idea, to just be by yourself and take a large dose of ibogaine. Not a good idea. So, it just underscores the necessity for making this more widely available in a safe setting. So, let's make it happen.
Yeah, like I said before, the more education we can get out there, the more information and the more that people know, when everybody does better. So we really appreciate your insight and all that you've done and coming on here with us. I wanted to shift gears a little bit. I have some other questions off topic. Again, doing some research and stuff, I saw that you are a Burning Man regular.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I just came back. I was at my 16th tour this year. So.
Wow. 16, that's impressive. You're like
OG.
An OG, nowadays.
Yeah, somebody said somebody I was talking to at the Burn this year said, "Oh, you're 16th. It's your sweet Bernstein."
How did you?
And you're 15th. Go ahead. Your 15th is your quinceañero.
How did
Bernsteñero or something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
How did you first discover it? Was it sort of like along the same things of going to that first Grateful, or I don't even know if it was the first Grateful Dead concert you went to, but it was.
It was actually the first Grateful Dead show I was at. Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's a little more planning involved, but yeah, it was back in 2001 was my first time going, and I had a close friend who who I think I was talking with him at a party or some social gathering, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be going to Burning Man," and I think it was like